Hello and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and welcome to a new session of Inspiring Conversation. This is a beautiful day, and we in Iceland are celebrating, according to the old calendar, the first day of summer. And the scenery where I am is beautiful. I will just show you how my view is. So I'm looking at this beautiful mountain called Kirkjufell. You can maybe spot it if you have interest. You can spot it in season 5 of Game of Thrones. So now you know where I am at. It's in Snæfellsnes Peninsula. But let's go through why inspiring conversations are important. Inspiring conversations it's all about creating conversations that really matter. We are diving into ways to connect deeply, break down barriers, and build moments that inspire trust and growth. Whether it is with your team at work or in your everyday chats, we will bring positivity, realness, and impact into every conversation. So today I'm introducing a nice fellow, I hope so, by the name of Robert J. Hunt, who co-wrote this unbelievable, funny book, Nobody Cares Until You Do. And it's living beyond the blame, excuses, and doubts that hold you back. Oh, maybe I should say, I don't know if it's funny, but maybe Mr. Robert J. Hunt can say he is the accountability dude.
I think it's funny. It has our hearts in it, so it has to be funny. And I think
Yes,
life is funny enough. If you just tell stories of life, it should be pretty funny.
yes. And I will start with saying sorry for the confusion with the time. I don't know how I made this mistake because I'm used to be on at 3:30 on Icelandic time, like in 1.5 hours from here. But when I make a mistake, I tend to make mistakes perfect. So
Perfect
that
mistake.
isn't it a
Good
good
for you.
approach
Good
to
for
the
you.
mistakes? Yeah.
We got to hold on to something to be proud of.
Yes. I'm just like, yay. So, Mr. Hunt, or how is it? Oh, we have a viewer who says, "Hello and greetings from London, UK. Looking forward to this conversation, and my gratitude for holding the space for the conversation. Appreciate you."
Wow.
So
Set the bar
we
high.
are, I think, like we,
So far,
the,
we're doing great.
yeah, the pressure is on. The pressure is on.
Someone's already saying nice things to us.
Yes. So should we let's start with
Let's
because
quit
we have
now.
yes, we have an hour. I presume we have an hour because I guess I have to cut you off in an hour.
Yeah. Yeah. I gotta eat lunch at some point.
Yes. Oh, the bloody food we have to eat sometimes.
I'll starve to death. I would literally starve to death.
Yes. But before you go, start talking about nobody cares until you do. Who is Robert J. Hunt and why this brilliant title, The Accountability Dude? I love saying
Well,
dude.
that is the right way to say it, actually. I grew up in Southern California, and so everybody was a dude. And the older I get, the more I forget people's names. So I'm just like, hey, dude. It
Yeah.
was easy because I don't have to feel bad that I don't remember your name. We had a networking event last night, and I hosted it, and there was always people I've known for years. And then you get a little pressure, like someone walks in, you're like, Bob, how you doing, Bob? And then someone else walks in, you're like, Todd, this
Yeah.
is it's just gone. It's just gone. So I just gotta go, hey dude, how's it going,
Yeah.
dude? So dude is one of my favorite words growing up and to this day. And accountability is my life. This is what I do for a living. I run groups where business leaders come together every month in a private meeting, and we build a world of accountability. Most of the leaders that I have met really know how to run their business. They're successful. They're doing a great job. They've got a bunch of employees. They're making millions of dollars. Everything's golden, but they're not doing all the things they should do. And so having a place where that you create your own accountability is what motivates us to do stuff. It's kind of like peer pressure was when you were a kid and someone told you to jump out of a tree you knew you shouldn't jump out of, but you did it anyway because everyone's cheering you on. Well, we need that as business owners. In life, it gets a little daunting. There's a load that we carry. And having other people who have your back who will go, are you going to do that? You said you're going to do that. Or even better, when you say, look, I want to spend more time with the family. I need to slow down a little bit. And you tell us that in the meeting. And then the next month you come back and go, I think about buying a new company and opening another division. We're going to go, wait, didn't you just say you need to slow down and spend more time with your family? You get to do whatever you want to do. It's your life. You're in charge. But you've created a place of accountability where we're going to remind you of what you said you wanted. So it's what I do for a living. It's what I wrote the book about, which is Nobody Cares Until You Do. It's all about accountability, which sounds very exciting, I know, but it's very powerful. There's freedom and hope and power in accountability.
But how did you get there? Like, why? Okay, Southern California, I vision, like when you're a dude. Like, were you there also? Or?
Well, why is Southern California associated with getting high? I guess it's legal there now, so I guess that's it. But
nothing gets past me. So, like,
nothing.
Don't try.
It's that typical Fast Times at Ridgemont High where the guy was always high the whole time. And no, I wasn't like that. I grew up actually being a young man in Orange County where it wasn't as rowdy as it might seem. We had surf community. It was a cool place where I lived. You could go to the beach in the morning and surf. You could drive up to Big Bear and ski at night all in one day. Actually, if you wanted to really make it, you go to Lake Elsinore and you could water ski, do 3 things in one day. It was a pretty cool area to live in. But I lived there most of my life until 2010, and I moved to Texas because California is imploding. They're just being stupid, and I needed to get out. And so we came to Texas, and we love it here. It's the greatest country in America, and we're really enjoying the years that we've been here.
Robert, this is a harsh thing to say. Why are people in California stupid?
It's not the people, it's the leadership.
Okay.
The people there are great. My family's still there. I still have tons of friends there. But the way they run the state is just ridiculous. They're broke. They're literally broke, and they're still giving away money hand over fist. They don't make wise decisions. And so if I'm going to invest my life into a community, I want to know that there's a hope for it. And California's on this spiral down. And that started years ago. We've been here 15 years now, and it was miserable back then. They're just ridiculous today. Beautiful place to visit. Don't want to live there.
Well, yeah, and that was it about politics and stupid people running the place.
Yeah, of course, that's just my opinion.
It was a good thing a good thing I asked, because if your family would be listening, they would be, what? Do you think I'm stupid?
Yeah, good point. Thanks for helping me clarify that. I don't want to.
Oh, you would be on the chopping block, like,
yeah.
You are now. You are accountable for this. What you're saying. So, Robert, but how is the journey from? Like, I guess that you went through normal schooling and through all the high schools and whatnot, and then you went to a university, but how did you end up, like, why is accountability so much in your heart, or why is it your passion?
It didn't start that way. I started doing peer groups in 2013. And I really wasn't accountable. So it wasn't like I had a passion for accountability. But I love the idea of peer groups. I love the idea of having a group of people who will encourage you to be your best, and you can learn from them and share knowledge. It's a great venue for that. But during the years, I watched leaders who were not accountable fail. And I watched leaders who created a world of accountability succeed. And so the examples of the people who would be vulnerable and ask for help and share their weaknesses and say, I don't know, those people got help and got better. The people with pride who didn't want to let people know that they didn't know everything, because who does, they ended up not being accountable to other people, and therefore they failed. So I watched this go on for years and years, and that's really what drove this principle of accountability in my life. But it was something I taught. It was something I helped my clients with. It wasn't something I owned. And in my own journey, I had all kinds of things I was not accountable. Most people who are watching this today, I would say almost everybody, thinks they're accountable, but they're really not. At best, you're responsible, which is very different than accountable. We could talk about that in a minute. But there are things that you do that you don't even recognize where you're not being accountable because you blame or you make excuses or you say you can't or you just wait and hope, but you're not owning it at that point. You're a victim. And my beautiful wife, Kathy, and I, we played the victim role in our marriage, in our faith, in our finances, in our health. And there was always someone else to blame. There was always some reason why it wasn't getting done. There was always something that was holding us back, but it was us. And it wasn't until 2019 when we ended up being $90,000 in debt, not including the house or the cars. And it was killing me. I didn't realize how much stress I was under till I got out of debt later on and felt the difference of what life looks like when you're not burdened by debt. But in the beginning of 2019, we looked at our lives at the beginning of the year. We said, we're not living the life we want. And we realized it was our fault. It was something we had created and we needed to own it. And we'd always, every year, thinking, well, maybe next year the business will get better. I started my own business, so I had to grow. I'd have ups and downs, but we always spent like I was making the money I used to make when I was an employee. And starting your own business costs a lot of money. It takes time. It's a slow build. So I ended up stacking up debt. And so we were $90,000 at the beginning of 2019. And so we said, look, if for some reason God doesn't bless us, as in take care of our debt problem, we're going to sell this house and we're going to start over. Because the reality is we had equity in the house and we could do that. We didn't want to do that. And all year long, we're like, Lord, come on, just show up, just throw a big bag of money over the fence. Let's get on with this. And he didn't do that. Go figure. But in September of that year, I had vertigo for 16 days. And I'd never had vertigo before. It just came out of the blue and I was sick, horribly debilitating. You can't sleep, you can't do anything, you can't focus. And after about 10 days, I thought, Kathy, if this never goes away, we're screwed. We owe $90,000. How are we ever going to survive? Well, the Lord took it away after 16 days, and it was a wake-up call for us to go, we got to do this now. So we put the house on the market and decided to sell it. And we outline all this in our book to tell the story that says that was the point in our lives when we realized nobody cares until we care enough to do something about it. Everyone else has got so many problems, so many issues. There's no way they can worry about my junk. I got to worry about my junk. But if I'm going to spend my time blaming or making excuses or saying I can't or just waiting to hope it gets better, I will play a victim the rest of my life. But I was sick of that. And when you finally get to a place where the pain of where you are is worse than the pain of where you might have to go to, you'll change. So we decided to sell the house, and we went through that journey of selling the house and starting over and moving into this home that we live in today. And we are debt-free. And we are living the life we really want. And that was the start of truly understanding the power of accountability.
But did you downsize the house, or because we, the people in Europe, like everywhere else than in America, and especially we outside Texas, because in Texas everything is big.
Yeah.
So is it possible to downsize in Texas?
Oh, it is. It is. We had a 4,200 square foot home with a movie theater upstairs, with all this lovely furniture my wife had meticulously chosen over the years. And we downsized to a 1,600 square foot rental that we're living in now, but none of the furniture would fit here. So we had to give it away or sell it for pennies on the dollar and start over. We couldn't even take all of our kitchen stuff or our clothes. There's, little closet versus the walk-in closet that was full, and the other closets and other rooms that were full. And it was just a really humbling time. But again, this is where accountability works. When you're vulnerable and you admit to people, I have an issue. I owe $90,000 in debt and I'm taking control of my life. People rallied around us and cared for us, and encouraged us. And it was hard. It was very hard. And my beautiful wife, who's so faithful and so kind, she's like, okay, I'll do it. We'll do this. But her identity was in our home. Mine wasn't. So it was harder for her to make that sacrifice. But she believes in me, and she knows that we wanted to honor the Lord with our lives. And so we made that decision to sell the house, and it was a great decision. Come April of 2020, we were in this rental, had taken the money we had from selling our house, paid off all of our debt. We were debt free. It was so cool. At the time when the world was shutting down for COVID, I didn't have to worry. I could make whatever I make and get by, because this was this tiny amount of expenses versus this amount of expenses. And we had reset the life we were living in. It was awesome.
But how is it, Robert? Because you mentioned your wife like, but when I think about life, like what is important, and when you are accountable, as you're saying, so the song like wherever I lay my hat, that's my home. Like because I sense this love that you have for your wife, and I gather that you are like one item after
Yeah.
100 years of marriage. But it is this thing, you know, that does it matter that you have a walk-in closet, or like what is it that you make of life? Like how is the perception? Because when you have accountability, like what is it that is meaningful for you? Definitely your lovely wife, your kids, and whatever. So the material things, they should not be at number one. Like they should be number 10. Like, isn't it? Do you know what I'm
That's
getting
the,
at?
the
Or
kind of the perspective sneaks up on you. Nobody
yeah,
starts off at the beginning of their life going, I think I'll get really heavily in debt and have a lot of stress in my life. It
yeah,
just,
yeah,
whatever you make, it's not enough. I started my first job. I made like $28,000 working in an ad agency. And the next job, I made $50,000 working as VP of marketing and sales. And the next job was $100,000. And every time I made more money, I just spent more. And
yeah.
I was always gone. There was never
Mm,
enough. I never saved. I just spent it. So I think people slowly, bit by bit, lose the vision of the life they want, and they end up trying to optimize the crappy one they ended up with. And that's kind of where we were. We were not living the life we wanted. We were
no.
constantly stressed about it. I was making decisions in a fear-based mindset. I wasn't having joy in my life. It was a stress point between Kathy and I. It was just tough. But I didn't choose to get there. It's slowly, bit by bit, I allowed it to get there.
Mm,
And that's where accountability comes in. The simplest definition of the word accountability is you own it. So if you allow something to get there, well, then you own the fact that you allowed it to get there. Well, now, since I own it, the beautiful thing about owning it means I have the power to fix it. When everything happens to you, you're a victim and you can't do anything about it because someone else is always doing something to you. Your boss is a
yeah.
jerk. Your spouse is horrible. Your kids are horrible. The economy is horrible. The president's horrible. Pick your topic. Everyone loves to blame, but it doesn't do anything except make you mad or take away the willingness to try to change anything. When you own it, I feel powerful. I think, well, this
Mhm.
is mine. I'm in charge. I can do whatever I want to do. And the journey is going to be hard either way. It's hard to be a miserable victim, and it's also hard to get out of being a victim. But either way, you're going to have problems to get through. But at the end, you're victorious and you own it and you are living the life you really want, which is what we're doing today.
And I also find like there must be somewhat of like we can talk about resilience maybe. Like it's just because what is it that really gets you? Like how are you, or how? Because now I'm putting on screen comments from David Pushkin, a good friend from the UK, and he, boy oh boy, he woke up one day and he has lost it. He did just lost his vision, and but you know
Like his eyes vision or his vision for his life.
no eyes vision.
Oh,
So
wow. What a
so
bummer.
and that is a change, but like he he is just for me. He is one of the like. It's just crazy to be talk to him and his view of life and this is just one a bump in the road and then life goes on. But
Yeah.
it's
Now,
all
David has a
also
choice. David has a choice to be a bitter, angry person and shake his fist at God and say, you have screwed me over and be pissed off
yeah
at life the rest of his life till he dies. Or, as you describe him, he's a dude who owns it. He's a
yeah.
dude who says, this sucks, but I got to make the best of it. I got to press on. We have a choice in everything in life. Everything in life has a choice. It may not be an easy choice. It may be a really hard choice. It is still the choice. And if you own it, then you have the chance to live the life you really want. And it sounds like he's still owning it and pushing through. I like that.
And as he says, like such strength in accountability and belonging and being vulnerable, ownership is hard but necessary. And I have to say, he was also lucky because he met me.
Yes, of course, which we all are. I count this as one of
Oh
my most
yes.
blessed days.
Oh, thank you. As I said, I make perfect mistakes. Like I don't
Uh,
make mistakes, I make perfect mistakes. So, but let's go. And now, because your title of the book is just, and I have to commend you on the like the front of the book is just, I like this, like when you rip off something, like. But
Yeah.
tell me, who is Salem
Salem Thine.
Thine? So who is he, and why did you? How did you?
Yeah.
Why did you
Salem
just bump
Thine.
into each other one day and say, "Ooh, nobody cares"? Sorry.
What a perfect coincidence. No, Salem Thine has been in my CEO groups for 7 years now. And when I first met him, um, I guess it's 6 years. He had shared with me the accountability ladder, which is a great way of articulating the principles of accountability and showing where we play a victim and showing what it's like to be victorious. And I took that and started running with it, and I used it with all my clients, and it's a very good visual. And I was very thankful that he introduced me to that. And then he would say, "You should write a book about it. You're very passionate about it. I love how you. I've taken the accountability ladder, and I've found ways to apply it. I'm teaching it, and with all my clients." And he said, "You should write a book." I said, "There's no way I'm going to write a book, man. That's just too much work. I don't have a passion for that." He goes, "I'll help you." Well, with him helping me, as in holding me to a level of excellence of what it would look like to do these things, a little bit of babysitting for each other. I mean, what we'd say is, "Hey, Friday at 2 o'clock, we're going to take the rest of the day off and we're going to write." But the problem was, we just get sidetracked so much. We'd be talking about stories and we capturing things. We weren't getting anything written. We were just creating data points. So we finally decided that we needed to hire a publisher, and so we did. We hired a publisher, and they did the majority of the work. We got a ghostwriter. We're not ashamed to say that we had a ghostwriter write this book. We created the outline. We created the stories. We gave her all the data. She connected the pieces. She did a phenomenal job. So it's not a big bragging point that we authored this book. What we want is people to change their lives. And we said, and we spent a lot of money. Having a publisher, you spend a lot of money. If I sold 50,000 copies, we'll break even. Well, we've sold probably 3,000, maybe 5,000. I don't at this point.
No.
We're probably never going to break even, but it's okay, because if we change one person's life, we thought it would all be worth it. And we're changing a lot of people's lives. We're hearing lots of stories from people who fill out their satisfaction assessment and then send us an email talking about their journey. And so we feel joy that we've been able to help people.
And that is sometimes, in my mind, like these conversations that I'm having, like if people take this much from it,
Yeah.
and get
Yeah.
inspired and do something, like I applaud you for like just doing it. It's just sometimes like, if you really want it, why not see if you can do it?
Yeah.
And the
And again,
technology today, yeah.
accountability recognizes your limits. And instead of saying, "Gosh, I'm so busy. Gee, I don't know how to write a book," stop making excuses, stop blaming, hire a publisher. And, "Well, I don't have the money for it." Go get the money. I mean, we both had to put in almost $50,000 each to be able to get the book written. Well, we don't have to sit around with pockets of $50,000. We had to go get the money. We had to go create it. But we did. We had a goal. We created the money. We put it in. And so stop making excuses. Stop being a victim. Go out and do what you know you want to do.
But that must also be when you work with people, because now in a heartbeat I'm going to go out on a limb and share my like assessment.
Yeah.
But because when people talk that, "Oh, I don't have time. I loved reading, but I don't have time," and then when you ask people, "Okay, so how does your day look like?" And then they spend hours on TikTok or hours in front of Netflix, and it's just, what is it that you want? And like, be, as you say, own it and just do it, because I always enjoyed reading, and I always enjoy grabbing a book and just have it in my hands, and just read one chapter,
Yeah.
and then I
Right.
feel like, and or nowadays I just listen when I'm driving, because I am 2.5 hours away from my home. When I'm driving, I'm listening to an audiobook, and it takes me places, because sometimes I have to pause and just like, okay, focus, because the author says something and my mind is just like ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
And then I have to go ding, 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 ding.
But we make excuses for a lot of the things that hold us back as victims. And if you start looking at anything you're not happy with, which is why we put the satisfaction assessment in the book, the very first stage of creating accountability is to acknowledge reality. And the reality is, you're not happy with your marriage. You're not happy with your health. You're not happy with your finances. Okay, why? And then you go and you see the things that we use that hold us as a victim. We blame, we make excuses, we say there's nothing we could do about it, or we wait and hope it'll get better. Those four things are the traps that hold us back from having the life we really want. And that's why we
Well,
had the assessment there.
well, I think that my wife, she would love this conversation because back in 2009 or 2010, I was bitching about the government in my hometown, and they were doing everything wrong, and there was this and then she said, "Oh, stop whining, do something about it. Just please don't let me listen to you all the time." I was just like, well, then I started writing articles, and then all of a sudden I was game to, and that was just the community like elections. So I was like, we just did stuff, and
Yeah.
as you say, like if you are bitching and moaning, well, then you have to participate. You have to change
You
the things that
own
you're
it.
not happy with.
Right.
So should we go through the process? Because I okay, now I took the assessment, and now we are going to talk about like nobody cares until you do, and I need, because I have been full of blame, and I have been full of excuses, and I have also been full of doubts that have held me back, because I, as a son of alcoholic, and I was always going back to my roots, and I was always blah, 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 there was
Yeah.
always something. But literally, and I think that when I got twins in 2001, you just sit there watching them, tiny, tiny bits, and you're just like, wow, how on earth did I do this? Like, and then they become your most precious things in the world. So it's just when and how is it, and then they start to pitch it more, and then no, and then all of a sudden you're just like, oh,
This is
where
where
do
you
they
create a
get
common
this?
language that you and everyone in your world gets to join you in. It's not that you're running around going, nobody cares, nobody cares, nobody cares. That'd be rude. It's for
Yeah,
you to say to yourself, nobody cares. I need to do something about it. I need to own this. So
yeah,
stop making excuses, stop blaming, stop saying you can't do anything about it, stop waiting and hoping. And as you practice this, your children will watch you when you lose a job, when you come down with a disease, when you have a tragedy happen, when you lose some kind of person who was close to you that breaks your heart because they passed on. All these things that happen, they'll watch how you own it. And that is the
yeah,
common language and the journey that you're inviting them into. That can be a blessing to your kids.
yeah. Well, I hope, yeah, for me, they are, of course, perfect,
Of course.
as it has been the theme of my. But yeah, but then it's up to me to tell them like how, like, no, I don't want you to do this, and like I am accountable for them to be a good person. But when they are turn 18 or 24 or whatever, they move out, and then they can. But then my role is, I have done what I think is the best for them. So,
Well, let
but
me let me
now,
tell. One of the
yeah,
principles is nobody can hold anyone else accountable. We say
yeah,
that phrase a lot, but you really can't. You can't hold your kids accountable. When you say to them, floss your teeth. Now, unless you sit there and watch them every single time they brush their teeth, you will never know if they floss their teeth. So there, you put them to bed and you go, "Did you floss your teeth?" "Yeah, sure." If they didn't, you won't know until they go to the dentist and they have all these cavities. And
hmm,
are you sure you've been flossing? Well, maybe not all the time. So that simple example is evident in our own lives. Nobody can hold you accountable to anything. So we have to stop saying that, because if you try to hold your kids accountable when they live with you, when they grow out and no one's babysitting them or telling them no, they will go over the edge. They'll make really bad decisions. So I've had to let my son and my daughter make decisions and fail when they were young, living in my house, so that I can
yeah,
watch them own it. Hey, this is your deal. You chose to do it. You need to own it. You joined that sports team. Even though you don't like it, you need to finish out the season, because that was a decision you made and you're going to own
yeah.
that. But we create the opportunity for them to learn what it is to be accountable, but we can't hold them accountable,
No,
but we
no.
can teach them what it looks like.
Well, we can't watch them 24/7, that's for sure, because we also have to be accountable for our own lives, isn't it?
Right. which is the best way to model. They watch our behavior. More is caught than taught, right?
Yeah. But okay, so now I'm going to switch on to my assessment, and you will be gentle with me. I
Of
haven't got a
course.
clue. Like I just saw some graphics that I didn't understand. So now we are having like, what is it? Like go through this
Yeah.
stuff
Let me start off
and
by saying this is a perfect assessment.
oh,
I just wanted to
again,
keep it going.
I I'm starting to feel like Mary Poppins,
Yeah, well, very, very
practically
much.
perfect in every way.
So what we do is we want this to be something that is personal and professional, because in my world, I tell my clients there's no such thing as work-life balance. There is only one life. And so you live it at work and you live it at home. So we want to score them independently, but we want to be consciously aware one affects the other. If my marriage is suffering, I bring that to work every day. If I hate
Yeah,
my job, I bring that home every day. And so we're one person everywhere. So you score your business satisfaction and your personal satisfaction. And the goal of it is just to have a round wheel. I don't care if you score everything a 4 or everything a 6, but you can't drive a car if it was shaped like this. So all we have to do is then consciously look and say, okay, my money is not where I want it to be. I'm not satisfied with my money. And I'm not as satisfied with those other ones on the bottom as I am with the ones on the top. So maybe I take down a little bit of personal growth and a little bit of fun recreation. Maybe I lower that down a little bit more to put a little bit more into earning money. So I can have what I want. Now, I don't need to have all the money in the world, but I have to have enough that I feel satisfied with it. And so you can spend the time adjusting your life. Maybe you put in a few more hours instead of having so much recreation. But the goal is to make the wheel round, because that's a balance. So you can drive the car. Same thing with your business side. You say your financials is not what you want it to be, and your sales and marketing is not what you want it to be. So I need to focus on those areas. Maybe the personnel is fine, but I need to go and find some other personnel. Maybe I need to make a change in how we do customer service so I retain more clients. We choose to logically look at these things and challenge ourselves to say, where can I put more effort into the things I'm not satisfied with, and reduce the effort in some others so I can have the bandwidth to do that. I don't want to just go and work 100 hours to try and get the other one up. You got to lower something. You got to take a chill on something and have room for the other areas you want to change.
so just to clarify, can you go through the colors? Like, can you take, like, as you mentioned, I gather that in the business section, the purple is work, no money, and the orange is marketing. Or
In the business section, there's a
yeah,
legend down below it. The purple one is your vendor supplier relationships, and the orange one is financial.
yeah,
And then the pink one is sales and marketing. So in your business side, you're not as satisfied. And this is what's interesting. You shouldn't be embarrassed to share this with other people. Because let's say you scored your marriage not where you want it to be. That's okay. That's to be honest. Then we can go work on it. But when Kathy and I were going through all of our debt problems, man, we fought a lot. And I looked at her like, geez, you keep spending money like we have money. And I was mad at her. I was treating her poorly because of the debt. So our marriage had issues that we had to work through after we got out of debt. We went to a counselor for a while to talk through issues. So the point is that you intentionally identify these areas you want to work on so you can go work on them. That's the whole point. So in your area, you've got sales and marketing, that's the lowest, along with financial. And then second in the lower area is vendor relationships. So maybe we take a little bit of time to invest in those areas and make some changes in the other areas to try and balance out the wheel. Same thing goes on your personal side. You said money is low, is the lowest one, followed by the other four, which is red, orange, green. Those are spiritual, career, and friends and family. It's all relevant. If I had $10,000 in the bank, I might score that money's really bad. You have 10,000 in the bank, you might go, money's great. So it's all based on perspective, right?
yeah,
And so
yeah,
how you
yeah.
feel about it, it's relevant to your story. So showing someone else your number isn't embarrassing because it's your story. By the way, anyone could do this for free. If you go to nobodycaresbook.com, you can take this assessment for free. And we don't want your personal information. We don't want we didn't want that to be an inhibitor for someone being honest. So you don't have to give us anything. Just take the assessment, print it out as a PDF, and then it's yours. You can have it. If you want to buy the book, that's great. But at the very least, stop and be honest with yourself. In light of the vision you had for your life, how satisfied are you today? In light of the vision you had for your company, how satisfied are you today? And then be honest about it enough to say, okay, now what am I going to do?
So underneath the screen, on the screen, your book, nobercaresbook.com, is running through like
There
a
it is.
water
There it is.
flowing. So, okay, if mine is almost perfect,
Yeah, it is perfect.
but okay, do you have or can you go through stuff that you have encountered where, like, do you have your own back from then and how it would be today, or is that too much to ask?
Oh,
Like because
yeah,
visually I can
yeah,
get this. Oh yeah, yeah, this is literally my like my life.
yeah,
So it would be fun to see you in 2019 and
yeah.
then today, if you can, but you don't have
I
to
don't
do
know
it
that I
yet.
have that, but I know we did this early on when we were creating this assessment. I know we did this and we tested ourselves as a
Yeah.
part of writing the book. It was freaking miserable. It was
Yeah.
everything was down. It was just ugly. But again, as I this will always be changing. It will always be
Yeah.
getting
Yeah.
different because look, for example, when I first went through all this, we got out of debt. That fixed my financial panic mode. And when I saw that I could be accountable and change my life, I started looking around saying, well, what else do I want to change? I wasn't happy with my marriage. We had a lot of bad feelings we had to go work through. So we went to a counselor. And that took about a year of us going to a counselor and having real hard conversations to reset. I love this woman. She's my best friend. But she had become my enemy because she was spending money, not frivolously, but like groceries, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And I'm just
Oh,
like, oh,
again, the
you got to
bloody
settle
food, the
down.
bloody food.
And so what I would have scored as something I'm okay with in relativeness to the other things that were so ugly, when I finally got those lined out, I go, okay, let's look at my health. I was 265. That's the fattest I've ever been in my life. And I was so unhealthy. But I'm like, who cares? My solution for all my debt problems was bourbon and potato chips. And so I just kept eating and gaining weight, but I'm like, I don't care. Well, when I finally got a grip on owning this and started looking at my life, I thought, I'm not healthy. I don't like that. So I went on a program to get in shape and go back to the gym and exercising. So that thing now became something I was not satisfied, where I had said I was satisfied, but I really wasn't. I was lying to myself. And then I now scored it lower because I had the ability to see, I had the bandwidth to go chase another area of my life. So I think these scores constantly change. You could take them every year
Yeah,
and you'd
yeah.
see adjustments.
But how is it? Okay, then we are at the stage of, okay, I get this, and when, if people contact you, because, well, of course there is this, when you were mentioning you went to a marriage counselor, or like, why is it so difficult for people to just eh, own it, and okay, we need help, we want to be together, because sometimes today, in the fast-paced life that we live in, it's so easy, it's an easy way out. Like, you started on a journey, and okay, granted, sometimes you just like move along and you maybe go apart, but if you have been like, me and my wife, we have been together for 39 years. It would be like, we were
Awesome.
talking about this the other day or other year, like, the conversations that they start to melt into my brain. And she said, if we would divorce, would you? No, not a fat chance in hell. I won't go on the market. I will just be happy living on my own, because there are so many things that the joke that the ladies say. Oh, is he well trained? Because
The answer is no.
no,
I'm
no, no, never, never, and
never
it's
going to be
so.
house perfect. Never
Oh,
going to be.
now we are like, now I could put on.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
But
that's just kind of who
okay,
we are.
yeah, and we just, like, why is it you go to a doctor if you are not well, and you
I
do
think the
stuff?
reason the reason that people don't see this problem is they think they're accountable, but they're
Yeah,
really being responsible. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
When you are responsible, you respond to something. Something goes wrong, you fix it. Or simply put, you get a paycheck, therefore you respond by going to work. That's being responsible. But accountable would be being at your work and doing the things you said you do during the job interview. When you bragged about how smart you were, how dedicated you were, how caring, how thoughtful and creative you are, and all these great things you said you'd bring to the company. But then you get to the company and you've got a jerk boss, you got a bunch of whiny coworkers that you hate, you got horrible customers, and next thing you know, you hate your job. So how do you show up at work every day? You're miserable, you complain, you do the very least you have to do to get that paycheck and go home. So you're being responsible. I give you money, you show up, we're even. But accountable would be you hired me to be this amazing human. And just because people are bad does not mean I should stop being accountable for what I promised to do. You got bad coworkers? Fix it. You got a bad boss? Fix it. If you just can't fix it, go get another job. But people stay miserable in their job for years. And they say, well, I can't go find another job. That's not true. It might be hard, but you can find. If not, start your own company. Anything's better than working a miserable job just to make money. So these are the things where we mistake accountable for responsible. And we're doing all this stuff. We're responsible. We go home and feed our family. We talk to our spouse. That's not accountable. When you married them, that was your best friend. And you're going to live forever in love and joy. And now you barely pass each other in the hall. I want the marriage that I dreamed I'd have the day I married Kathy. That takes effort. That takes honesty. That takes accountability to the vows I took before God to love and honor and cherish this woman. So that is the big difference. Everyone thinks they're accountable, but they're really barely being responsible.
Mhm. So if I'm sharing my assessment again. So if it would have been inconsistent, like it would not have been like if there had been more stuff smaller or like not a wheel, like take me through when you talk to people and offer them like they want to like they see this and definitely there's something wrong and they want to get assistance or get help, like how, because it's difficult for you to get a conversation or a call and say, yeah, you have to quit that, do that, and like how do you make them feel, like how do you get them going, because that is like
Yeah, sure.
the first step, as you were saying in the beginning, that in 2019 you were in cohesion about this is not what we want,
Right.
and you had to, but Rome wasn't built in a single day, so it takes time again to, like,
Well,
if
this is where
you,
accountability comes into play. If you're going to be really accountable, you have to be vulnerable. So you and I are buddies. I talk to you every week. We have coffee a couple times a month and we hang out and bowl and we've got this relationship. But I don't want to tell you how messed up my marriage is. I don't want to tell you how broke I am. I don't want to tell you about my health issues. So I'm really not your friend. So if I'm going to really have accountability for the life I want to live, I have to be vulnerable. So the very first step in having the life you want and being accountable is to do the assessment and share it with somebody and say, Herden, this is me. This is my story. I don't like this and I need help. Now, most people already know what to do. They're just not doing it. We're not stupid. I mean, really, we're not. People in California aren't, but everyone else is really smart. Everyone else knows what to do. Let's take money. Let's take your category for money. And you say, look, I don't have as much money as I want. Okay. Do you really not have as much money as you want, or do you spend more than you should? So for us, I was making a lot of money, but we spent more than we should. So it's not that I needed more. I needed to rein it in. I needed to
yeah,
look at money like it was a tool, like it was a plant that I was going to invest and reap the harvest. God gives me this money. He only requires I give him 10% back as an acknowledgement that everything comes from him. The other 90%, he says, do whatever you want to do with it. But I'm still accountable for it. I'm still accountable to have enough money to give graciously when I see a need in my community, or when a friend loses a job to help pay for their rent for a month when they're hurting financially. If I spend it all and more, which is most people do, they spend more than they actually make. You're just trying to survive your own stupid decisions. So when you and I look at the money, we might decide that you really don't need any more money. You just need to cut out. Kathy and I shared a car for 3 years. I had enough money to buy a car, but we had killed our retirement and our savings accounts. There was nothing there in those years. So we had to start rebuilding. So we shared a car for 3 years. That sucked. Having to go and make sure you're home at a certain time so she can have to go do her thing, that was really annoying. But it was a prudent way to save money. Living in this house, I could have a bigger house. I have a lot of money. I make good money, but I'm trying to put away so someday when I can't do my work anymore, I'll have enough money to not have to beg my kids for food. And so I'm being conscious about the choices I make. So it may not be that you need more money, it may you need to spend less money. These are the kind of decisions a friend could walk you through. We actually paid a financial advisor $250 every time he came to our house and looked at how we spent money because we recognize we suck at how we spend money. So let's be vulnerable and let someone else come in and look at our stuff. It was humiliating. He's looking at our Discover bill going, geez, what is this? Well, we needed that. And so having someone that you have to answer to, he's not my dad. He's not babysitting me, but he cared enough to be honest with us, and we were vulnerable enough to invite him in. So if you really want to change, it requires accountability, and accountability only works when you're vulnerable.
So but that is also a thing, because if you are afraid, you're living in fear, you don't have money, you maybe don't have like food on the table because that is a necessity. Wouldn't that be an extra, or is it my lack of accountability when I say to spend money on a person who, like, when you have to spend money to gain money? Like, isn't it like, because my brain is now just, oh, so, it's sometimes it's just like a catch-22, because you have to spend money to earn more money or to live the life you want to live. and does that add more fear in you, or do you know what I mean? Do you know what I'm
Well,
talking?
let's go back to that point of vulnerability. Let's say you take and you have a budget, which I'll tell you, most of the world doesn't have a budget in writing on a piece of paper that you compare and track. But let's say you had one, and then
Yeah.
you show somebody, here's my budget, here's my spending for the last 6 months, both personally and professionally. And you let them look at it and really go, you spent $3,000 on an ad in a magazine to get more clients. Did you get any more clients? No. It looks like you did that 6 times. Did you get any clients? No. So it's really just sometimes we do things out of ego. We do things out of, well, my friend, he has a company and they did it. That doesn't mean your clients are there. So we're if we're going to allow someone to look at our stuff and really understand it, you may not need to spend money to make money. You may actually be able to live like I do. I don't have an office. I have a friend of mine has a building. He lets me have my address there. And when I meet at my clients' companies. So I don't have to pay for an office and a meeting space. I therefore keep my costs down. Therefore, my overhead's almost zero. Just the basic day-to-day functions of things. And so you don't have to have these things. It's all you know. But if you invite someone in and you say, look at this, look at how I'm spending this. What do you think? Oh, we don't do that. We cut cable years ago. Cut cable's $150 a month. You just get a streaming service. We get Netflix for $20. So there's lots of things you can do. You just don't want to do it. Remember, one of the things that holds us back is I can't. But instead of saying I can't, change it to I won't. Because when you say I can't, people go, oh, I'm sorry. But if you say I won't, they go, why not? It makes it where you've made a choice to do something stupid. And so that's where they can call you out and go, well, this doesn't align with what you're telling me you want to do. Inviting people into your journey and being vulnerable is how you get that done.
And also, when you put it out there, it goes from your brain and out there, then it's more,
It's real.
yeah, you can almost
Yeah.
touch it.
Yeah. Well, and that's
So
the beauty of it. If you tell
yeah.
me that, hey, you're going to be nicer to your wife and you're only going to do this and that, I can call you up and go, hey, how's that going? How you doing treating your honey? And you could lie because I can't hold you accountable. But if I'm calling you, there's a little bit of peer pressure. It becomes real. I put a line in the sand, so to speak. And I'm now saying, this is what I'm going to do. And you're creating the opportunity to improve your life because you've declared it to somebody.
Who have you ever met a person who was just, where you had to ask yourself, why in God's name did you contact me? why did you want to do this? Like you met, like, because sometimes people are so resistant.
Yeah, I think there's different levels of that. I've had some clients who wanted to be in our peer group because they thought it was the right thing to do. I'm a business owner, I should do this. Someone else is in a group, they heard about it, but they weren't willing to be real or open or transparent, and they never grew. I've had other people who joined, but they didn't understand the level of transparency that's required to be in a peer group. And so when we start getting, like they'll put on the screen their P&L, and they'll be like, look how much we're doing, $58 million a year in sales. And then we're looking at the bottom going, yeah, but your net profit is so low. Why is that so low? And they get offended and hurt that you're saying that their business isn't good. We're not saying your business isn't good. We're saying your profit is really, really low. For the kind of industry you're in, you should be making 20% margin down at the bottom line. You're making 3. Don't you want us to call that out? No, I don't want you to call that out. I want you to be proud of what I'm doing, but you're not doing something right. You should be making this much money. Instead, you're making this. And so some people didn't like people getting up in their business like that. And so again, real accountability requires vulnerability. So I think in their brain they thought it would be a helpful thing, but I've
Yeah,
only had a handful of people over the years that have joined and not made the cut. I try and vet really well. I ask really probing questions. I get up in their business from the very beginning and I ask very personal questions. If you can't handle it during the interview, you're going to hate it when there's 10 other people in the room going, "Tell me about this." You're not going to like that at all. So I
yeah,
try and
yeah.
do that up front, and that avoids that.
But how is it to then it comes to like openness? Because I think I would just, you would read me like an open book. But just remind me what PNL is.
Oh, profit and loss statement. So in your company, you would say, "Hey, we did $58 million a year. Here's all the expenses we have. Here's our profit." But then there's other things we have to pay, and assets and depreciation, and all these things that you have to put in the overhead. All these things that you do. And the very bottom line says, "This is what I actually got to keep at the end of the day." And so you should be able to not only make a lot of money, but keep a lot of money. If I do $58 million and I only get $1 million at the end of the year that I get to actually take out of the business, that's a waste. That's that's not even something you should invest in.
So another dude from the UK, Mr. Rab Bassi, also he has been a guest on this inspiring conversation sessions. He asks, "Do you think that people who don't take gratitude well cannot give it either?"
I don't know. I would assume they probably struggle with that. I think the thing that we struggle with is probably this thing we can't do for other people. One of the reasons why people are so angry and hurt in the world these days is they don't feel recognized and valued and loved. And it's just a lot of people that are hurting. But we've gone to a digital society where people don't hang out anymore. Go meet your
Mm,
buddy at the pub for a beer once a week and laugh and give hugs to people. Go play with your kids. They're in their room watching digital. You're in your room watching digital, and we're not even doing anything anymore. And so I think there's a lot of hurting people because we've lost some of that intimate connection. And that's sad. When Kathy and I look at our lives and think, what do we want to do? It's about relationships. It's about fun. It's about enjoying our lives. Maybe I'll never move out of this rental house. Maybe I'll be here till I die. I don't know. But that's not how I'm measuring the joy of my life. The joy is every night when I go to bed, that beautiful woman is in my arms. And my bed is a king size bed. Maybe it's 6 feet wide. But that bed's the same size whether I live in a mansion or I live in this small rental. And my life is really good at 9 o'clock at night when I get to go to bed with her in my arms. That means the world is complete. Everything is good. And so I just look at it from a different perspective. And that gives me joy and peace in my life. And God's been good to us. So we got nothing to complain about.
mm. But I have to also say that because here in Europe we are maybe not that into God and all that, but to be grateful, to show gratitude, it just is like stop and pause, look out the window, like what do you
Right.
see? Why are you? The day you wake up, you open the eyelids and you're just like, oh, a new day. Like embrace it, and just nobody said it would be easy.
Right. I mean, every day that you're watching something, you're doing better than David Pushkin, right? And I'm really honored that he's on our call today because it's a great example of, you want to complain that you don't have the kind of car the other guy has or the kind of house the other guy has. David doesn't have his vision. So as much as you want to complain, here's a dude who's not giving up, who's owning it, and he has no vision. So you can complain as much as you want, but it doesn't change anything. It just makes you miserable.
And he is a great guy because we have a laugh. We meet every month and just talk
Really,
about everything and nothing. And
that's so
I say
awesome.
I say stupid things, and he laughs. And well, what can I do? I'm a likable guy. But but as he says, like ego and pride stand in the way of asking for help, and sometimes you
Yeah,
just have to because I read the book Who Not How by Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy, and I was just like, why is it that we have to always prove that we can instead of talking to people who literally can? And so I'm talking to you, and I'm just learning heaps of stuff. I knew that we would be a good combo
yes,
because
I've enjoyed dating you this afternoon.
it's just a thing that instead of shutting up, just open your mouth and find a friend who wants to listen to you. Be like talk to somebody.
Yeah,
There is
and
no
listen
harm in it.
well. I think we've lost the art of listening too. So, what I do for a living is I listen to my clients. They don't need me to tell them what to do. They're very smart people.
No, yeah,
But if
yeah,
I
yeah,
listen
of
long
course.
enough, I can hear where their hurts are. I can hear where their confusion is. I can help bring clarity, but I have to listen a lot.
And I think that is the end words because you have to listen. You have to just like be there for the people. And now again, I'm the nobody book nobodycaresbook.com is the link to your website,
Yes,
and
sir.
you should I just tell everybody just go there and try it. It was fun. And
Yeah, it's
okay,
also
well,
available on Amazon and Target and all those other places you
yeah,
might.
and get the book because I think it's just go for it. You have to start somewhere, and then you have like then you can follow hands-on coaching because I'm a likable guy.
Clearly.
And I just like I thank you a lot. It is just like meeting great people like you, and you are like so inspiring,
Thank you.
and it's just like fun, and it's just you make it fun that
Thank you.
it doesn't have to be bad to be accountable. Just
It's
own it
freedom.
and look what you want. Like you can have fun just in front of the TV with a popcorn and holding have your arm around your loved one and
That's the
like
best
it's
part.
not
That's
yes.
right.
So I thank you a lot, but before we go I just want to remind people of next week's conversation will be with a Danish guy and it will not be in Danish. uh, Next inspiring conversation is with Dr. Torben Nørby on the Thursday of 1st of May, and we will be talking about contextual leadership. And he wrote a really interesting book about how to do this stuff. And but Robert J. Hunt, the accountability dude, I think I'm taking it a little bit further
I
every
like
time
it.
I see.
Stick with it.
I just like thank you very much for having like being my guest on the show, and I hope oh just have a great summer and whatnot. And
Thank you,
thank you
man.
very much for this.
It was fun.